Matewan is the home of the Hatfield-McCoy feuds. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. The Matewan Massacre and characters known as Devil Anse Hatfield. So I soon came to realize that Matewan, like me, is a little rough around the edges. So I knew right away that this was the community that I needed to take on to lead the foundational project. So with a population of just under 500 people, Matewan is a town that is steeped in rich history. There's so much history there. Like I said, there's the Mine Wars. They just recently opened the Mine Wars Museum. There's the Matewan Massacre. They were involved in the Battle of Blair Mountain. Of course, the infamous Hatfield-McCoy feuds. But it's also known, that's an example of the train. The stop sign's like right over here, and I was like, oh my goodness. They're also known as the birthplace of the middle class in Matewan. And they're known for their efforts in the expansion of the United Mine Workers Association in West Virginia. There's a lot of history there. This is a picture of some Civil War reenactments that they do there in the town in the spring and summer. It's also situated as a part of the expansive 300-plus mile Hatfield-McCoy trail system, which makes it a haven for ATV riders and outdoor enthusiasts. And it's also home to the state's only airboat tour. Can you believe that? And Keith Gibson, my buddy, he's become my buddy, he runs that thing. There's Keith. There's some of my students on that airboat tour. He took them on there, so it's pretty amazing. So what's not to love about Matewan? Sounds like a cool place, right? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you something. I debated, I went back and forth about this, but there's a video. One of my students did this video. He didn't have any training at the beginning of this. He really worked on it throughout the semester. But as a part of our process, we do our secondary research and background research of the town. And then, of course, we have our client meeting, which consisted of a branding committee that I begged to work with us for the town, which I'll talk about that later. But we went on some of the students stayed 3 days, immersion trip, where we totally immersed ourselves in the community. We had a stakeholder roundtable there. We went to different businesses, churches, talked to anyone who would talk to us. My students were scattered about, right? So we went everywhere. So he did a video for me of this immersion trip. I cut some of it out. So the technical aspect of it is not great, but I love this video for some reason. And I'll tell you why. It's authentic. It tells you there's some people there. There's a lady there from the Community Development Hub, Amanda Workman, who's now a dear friend of mine. We work together in these communities. She's talking about Matewan, and then also there's David Hatfield, and he's talking about what expectations were and what this means to the community. So it kind of paints the picture of what we were facing and the high expectations that we had going in.
It's a small town with amazing people. It's a fun town. I think that people should come here. A lot of people in West Virginia don't know about it.
It has a lot to offer. Just the beauty of the mountains, the river. The people in the area are so friendly.
Everyone's been working on their branding for a couple of years now, and it'll be nice to just actually see a plan come out of this, and then some implementation actually happen of it. I think it's exciting that you guys came and you've been here for 2 days, and hopefully you're going to go home, wherever home may be, whether it's in West Virginia or not, and tell other people about it. And I know that may not be directly tied to what you're doing for your class, but it's huge. I mean, you guys know word of mouth is huge, so go home and tell everyone about Matewan and tell them to come down here and visit.
I've lived here all my life, don't want to live anywhere else, and I really want to see our community grow. And I think you guys, West Virginia University, has really done above and beyond what most institutions would in a state. And we want to thank you guys for doing that. Really a lot more serious than just doing a class project for branding for Matewan. It's kind of like our last stand here. You know, if we can't make this tourism thing work, and I think it's the best shot that we have, no pun intended, it's kind of like our last stand too. And you'll never know how much we appreciate WVU and everybody coming down and helping us with this. Maybe 1 in 10 years, in one sentence, to be a thriving historic tourist destination second to none.
No pressure, right? No pressure. So this is before we had the whole brand journey brand. This was at the very beginning. So expectations were high. So we have a certain process. I'm known as the hard professor, and pretty intense. I'm very passionate about what I do, especially involves communities. But we have a process about how this works, doing a campaign plan. Of course, we have our secondary research, then we go in and immerse ourselves, then we do the primary research, and then we build the plan and evaluation and how we're going to sustain this in the future. So I'm just going to briefly touch on some of the research, so it'll show you how it guided our campaign. For the secondary research, we recognize that Matewan is a tourism destination, but its potential was largely underestimated and underappreciated, and that there was a lack of web presence. As you can see there, that was the website, okay? And early on, when I first met with them before my students even gotten involved, I mean, I was involved for months talking to these people and fostering these relationships before. That was something that came up. They were distraught. They said, I'm embarrassed. I can't. A lot of ATV riders would come through and want to stay in this one guy's place, the Blue Goose Inn. He said, if I tell them to search the web, matewan.com comes up, and it looks like that, and it hasn't been updated since 2009, okay? So he was embarrassed, and that echoed across business owners. Also, there was underlying issues. What they told me when I first went down there, David Hatfield said, well, we're a feuding bunch, and we still like to feud. That person's holding the web domain hostage. They will not let it go because he thinks it's worth $1 million. So he's afraid someone's going to get it and make money off of it. So those were some of the underlying lessons that my students knew. I mean, there's things that you have to deal with that you don't expect. So I said, I'll take care of that one on my own. I'll work on that. So I just said, I just need some names. So there was a lack of web presence. And there was a lack of a cohesive brand, and I use that term loosely, identity. This is pretty much what Matewan had. We weren't even sure. They couldn't even really explain all these things that were going on here. Then that's an example of a rack card, and it was just all text heavy. It had some errors in it. You know, there's no cohesive brand image, so it was just all over the place. But, you know, to their defense, they don't have the human capital. They don't have a large budget. They don't have any budget for tourism or to do anything like this. And also, this was something that echoed throughout our primary research as well. Community members must start talking positively about the town because there's a lot of negative talk and there's a fatalistic mentality, and rightly so. These people have been worked over before. The coal industry left, they've been promised things, and it's not just the coal industry, it's other things that's happened there in their history where, you know, they feel like they don't have anything going for them. And I can understand that as a native West Virginian, especially from a small town, and I grew up poor, so I get that. So you have to earn the trust and show them that, you know, this is our way out. This is our way out of this. This is the future. So we did some primary research as well, extensive primary research. Our students won, our work won a Crystal Award from the Public Relations Society of America for research. We also won for Best External Communications Campaign and for book for our Matewan Brand Guide. But we did visitor surveys. We did surveys of ATV riders, town stakeholders, community members, and we did a consumer perception survey of people from outside the region to figure out what makes them go to a place to visit. We also had a business owner and town stakeholder roundtable that was really successful. On the other hand, we had a community focus group, and 3 people showed up. They weren't, even though we had incentives. We will pay you $25 to come here for an hour, and they wouldn't do it. Okay, so those are some of the things we faced. You have an active group of people who want to do something, then the community didn't really want to be involved. And 2 of those people who came to the focus group, one had gone to the business owner focus group, and one person wasn't even supposed to be there. So All right, so we face some challenges. I'm showing you the nice stuff, but I can talk all day about the challenges too, but we learn lessons from these. I always tell my students there's something that you can learn from everything, and we figured out how to do things better. I'm just going to hit the highlights of some of the research, and this was pretty cool. We patterned it after some other branding studies. We asked the stakeholders in the roundtable, we asked them to compare Matewan to a famous person, and this gave us some very interesting responses. It allowed us to understand them and how they view their community. It also allowed some of their personality to shine through too. So some of the people in the community compared Matewan to Sid Hatfield because he was the leader of the Matewan massacre and he was viewed as tough and independent. Some people said Clint Eastwood because he's rough around the edges. And one person said, well, at least one person said, Dolly Parton, because Matewan is pretty and old, but like Dolly, it could use a facelift. But you can see, I mean, there's some, you know, they like to have a good time, that what you see is what you get as Matewan, but this told us a lot about how they view themselves and how it's like no apologies for who we are, and that's good, and because you need to do that when you're branding a town. You need to know how people view themselves. Also, this is some findings from both the community member survey and the stakeholder survey. We asked them what they viewed as Matewan's defining assets, and this was common across both. The rich history there. There's still bullet holes in the wall there from the Matewan massacre. ATV riding and the trails and outdoors, and also friendliness and small town atmosphere. And the stakeholders also said the economy was a weakness, the lack of advertising or marketing, and then bickering and division between people in the town government, the community members, and all that. From our consumer perception survey, we asked them what sources were most influential when planning a visit for a vacation, and they said they found most of their information through internet and online sources. They also mentioned social media as a good way to reach people. So for our campaign, briefly touch on this. Of course, you knew we were doing an integrated branding plan, but our focus was to position Matewan as a tourist destination. This was the destination brand, to attract visitors that would eventually lead to future economic development. We didn't do the whole blanket approach. We focused on 3 niche markets that we thought would be most successful right off the bat. ATV riders, a lot of people come to Matewan for that in that whole area. History buffs, and outdoor adventurers. And we did, we only had a semester, but I'm real big about not doing parachute projects, and that's why we need more time in these communities, and that's one of my recommendations for the future, that I'm not going to be a part of something where I feel like I'm abandoning people, you know. But what we did is that we did a 3-phase, 11-objective plan. We focused on phase 1 for that semester, but then created materials and gave them specific plans for like bus tours and all of this, so they could take on and implement it and sustain it after we were gone. So what we mainly worked on for our part at the beginning, we went into phase 2 a little bit too, but we created a new brand image that positioned Matewan as a historical and outdoor adventure destination. We worked on increasing Matewan's social media presence and engagement, because that's a free way for them to promote themselves, and a lot of people were interested in finding information from there, from friends and family. Virtual word of mouth is what we call it. And also to improve that web imprint and the digital image. So people, if they're searching the internet to find out more about Matewan, something besides that website is going to pop up. So a lot of work went into creating this brand image. It's going to look really easy and fast here because it's a presentation, but a lot of research went into like even color psychology we studied to figure out what colors would best represent Matewan. So we decided on certain colors based on that. Also, what the people said about how they viewed their town and what was important to them. So we presented them, we came up with a lot of logos, narrowed them down in the classroom, and then we even consulted with I got together some professional collaborators. Matt Sutton from Falgren Mortine Agency in Charleston worked with the students, helped with their pitch. They went down and pitched this to the branding committee. They chose a logo that wasn't necessarily my favorite, but then I've grown to love it. And I can see why they like it. I mean, you'll see. Okay, so it has a rifle on it. Dean Marianne Reed said, don't you think that's going to deter some people? I thought the person from Mate 1 who's attending the presentation was going to pass out. Because it's like they have a what you see is what you get. You know, they're not falsely selling themselves. They are proud of their feuding history, and they wanted it to be known. They were not false advertising. Mate 1, we're known for feuding, and the rifles are involved. The Magnolia back there, Mate 1 was originally called Magnolia. So this ties into their history. So it's kind of softening out the whole rifle, too. We created this special color. We dubbed it Mate 1 Burgundy. And this color represents, in color psychology, history and resilience and other things that describe Mate 1. The students, we put together an extensive Mate 1 brand guide, and it talks about color palettes, typography, proper use of the logo, and it has our brand platform about how we came up with the logo. This also won an award, the brand guide, a Crystal Award. But what we did to come up with the slogan is we explained what Mate 1 does, hospitality, history, and adventure, what it delivers, a unique look into Appalachian culture and living history, and then why it matters, birthplace of labor rights, preserved American history. So we came up with where history meets adventure. So that was, and they loved that slogan because they thought that represented them well. So from there on, it was time to promote the brand. And this is all going way faster than it really happened in real life, but we're in presentation world here. So promoting the new brand, what we did is we were fortunate enough to have the grant money, of course, for travel, because we found out early on, and we need more money for travel, that the Mate 1 folks, they just did better with face-to-face communication. We did some FaceTime, and then the broadband access was an issue. We did email, weren't really on the same time frame as us, phone calls, so we were down there every week. My students had to go down, and that's a 9-hour round trip just for the driving. So we had to do that in order to foster those relationships and get the information to help them. But wonderful people, I mean, it's okay, just all places are different. You have to cater to who you're working with. So some of the stuff that we bought to promote the brand, and we gave them all the information about the budget, the companies we use and all that, but we purchased these so they could sell them at the train depot and sell, these things to make money to implement other parts of the branding plan that we, after we were gone. So I encouraged them to start an account and all of this. They wanted me to start the account. I said, I can't do that. I don't want to be involved with the money. But they did that. Here's a bumper sticker. We had Mate 1 t-shirts made, and they love those. They love those so much. I worked with the Division of Tourism, and we got it. Here's a rat card. We had 2 versions of a rat card done, and these were we worked with the Division of Tourism, got them approved, and they are located in 6 welcome centers across West Virginia, 6 of the 8, and strategically placed areas where people would be traveling towards Mate 1, so they get that. One was a calendar of events. Another one had attractions in the area. And then that one, that may just look like a red bandana to you. But for people who know the history, you'll know that for the Battle of Blair Mountain, they would say, just watch for the rednecks, because they would wear the red bandanas around so they could see them and know not, who to shoot at, I guess. And so that's a part of their rich history. And so there's the Mate 1 logo on there. And I wanted them to sell that in the Mine Wars Museum. They also hand these out to students who come by when they're trying to do education of the area. We did targeted advertising buys to those niche markets. As mentioned, ATV riders, history buffs, outdoor adventurers, people traveling through the area. So we did a lot of research on this. I actually trained a student one-on-one how to do media planning and buying because she wasn't very comfortable with that. Well, she is now because she got hired in Austin, Texas, right out of school doing this from her work here. She had such confidence after doing this. We decided on HistoryNet because it's an online source and they have subscribers. So these are active audience members that they would go out in their newsletter, and then also it was featured on their site. Here's an example of the history ad. As you can see, Experience Living History, Mine Wars Museum, Hatfield-McCoy feud sites. We would have a similar template for all the other niche markets, but we would change up what we would focus on, and we change up the pictures so it would fit either outdoor adventure opportunities and all that. ATV Rider magazine, we got a package where we had the print and online version. ATV World, now it's an international publication, serves U.S. and international markets. We found that Canadians love to come down to the Matewan area and use that Hatfield-McCoy trail system. Also, there were some people from Ireland there as well, so the area is known. So we wanted to get that capture that as well. Also, we did West Virginia Living because they wanted to start targeting females to come to Matewan, and also people look to this resource for when they're deciding where to go. They do a lot of features about different places in West Virginia. So we did that in print and the online version. And to think ahead, we did this in fall 2015. Matewan's tourism season starts in the spring, and it goes throughout the summer. And so what we did is we prepaid for all these ads, submitted them, designed them, and then we had them scheduled to hit right as their tourism season was coming about to drive people to the area. We also had earned media coverage for a truly integrated plan. We had television coverage, state journal coverage, the Williamson Daily News. Right here's a piece about our small business workshop. We did workshops on social media, how to use Facebook for small businesses so they could take it upon themselves to start properly promoting their businesses. Here's one about the round table. We also did some feature stories. These are also featured on the new Matewan website. But this one was about a lady named Vera Hankins, who's an artist in the town. So they have a thriving artisan community there as well. I know this may not sound like much for larger markets, but we had over 400,000 media impressions, and this is for a small market area. And that's great, considering the readership and viewership in those areas is small. Here's an example of TV coverage. It's a lead-in from WBOY, I believe it was. No, wait, this was a Charleston station, actually, because we were down there.
WVU students traded Morgantown for Matewan when they took to the streets with one goal: to turn the town around. Mixing with business leaders and stakeholders, students say their goal was to help local business owners communicate about the strengths and weaknesses of this struggling coal town. Students and business leaders say the town is looking to shy away from coal-producing image to one of tourism and outdoor activity. Find out more about what residents of Matewan and WVU students are doing to improve other communities across the state in this week's edition of the State Journal.
So all this coverage was earned by my students. I trained them how to pitch stories to the media, I would help them edit the releases, so it wasn't that the media just showed up. We got them to come there, we got them to cover us, so there were a lot of lessons learned there as well. Also, here's that website blown up for you all to see. I took this on as something personal. I promised them. They were so upset about the website. And I said, I will do whatever it takes to get you a new website. So we used some of the grant money. Each community got a new website because they all needed one, but no one needed one more than Matewan. But we had there's a lot of history information where people want to learn about it. So I contracted a web designer because my students were doing so much other stuff, but we curated and wrote content for this extensive site. The guy said he's never done a website with so much information, but it's not bogged down with text, as you'll see. So Matewan had, anytime you type in Matewan, this would come up. They had high search engine optimization. I had to teach my students about that too. Here's another site that they had, Historic Matewan. So they had a couple different sites. That man who owned this, I found out who he was, and I talked to him, and he didn't want this domain name to fall into the wrong hands. He didn't want someone to try to make money off of it and all that. But I said, you know what? How about this? I said, we don't want to buy the domain. I said, how about you just redirect matewan.com from that site to the new site? So met in the middle there, and they had been trying for years to do this. So I negotiated with that. But he wanted to see the new website first. Well, I'll tell you what, it wasn't even 24 hours that website was redirected, and I'll show you why. We did a lot of research on tourism websites. This features professional images from all over, different aspects of the town. It has a stay and eat section, play and explore, events, plan a visit. We created all this. We did all the wireframing for the site. It also has an hour history, tells extensive information, links to the culture, division of culture. Our people that has feature stories about interesting people in Matewan. A photo gallery that includes, one of my students did used the 360 camera to do a 360 tour of Matewan. There's the flood wall and the town, and you can zoom in on certain parts, and then an information bubble will pop up, and it'll tell you a little bit about the different areas. And it also has maps for motorcycle routes and all that, so there's a lot of information. Here's an example of the stay and eat page. As you can see, here's the bed and breakfast and the Blue Goose Inn, and you click on that, and it'll take you to their site so you can go book. Here is the play and explore. We actually added this after the campaign was over because the Devil Ants Trailhead opened up that connected Matewan to that system, that trail system, which was huge for them. Here's a plan your visit. We wrote these itineraries. My students wrote them and I edited them. This was one of the things they said that they wanted. We did one for day trip, overnight excursion, and a long weekend. So there's different stuff there. And then I just took a screenshot of this one because this is an example of some of the feature stories we did. I think we did 5 of them. And I really like this one. There's Kathy and Dawn. I love them so much. Kathy worked with us. And Dawn and Kathy McCoy. Kathy owns Wingo's Grill. They specialize in Boston butt barbecue. It's a special part of the pig. And people love it. They smoke it there, and you can smell it all wafting all through town when they decide to open. Dawn has a business. It's like ADV tours. They have those fat, tired like motorcycles, and they take people on tours. It was featured in magazines and stuff. But Kathy, when a Hatfield marries a McCoy, Kathy was her maiden name's Hatfield. So we had that cool story there. And then they feature something called, they host something called the Stolen Pig Rally. And they call it that because it was said that the Hatfield-McCoy feud was started by a stolen pig. So they have a stolen pig rally. So this is really cool. It has some good history. I'll get into some of the social media numbers. And I'm just going to touch on the Facebook alone. We met or exceeded all of our objectives with everything that we did. But as you can see, the percentage increase in the engagement, it was over 2,000% increase. When we were there, we found out that the person who ran the social media account, there weren't accounts, we started an Instagram and Twitter. She was supposed to update the website also, but we found out that they only paid her $50 extra a month to do it, and they acted like that was a lot. Well, you can't make that a priority for $50 a month. So we had to tell them that it's worth a lot more than that, and some people actually do that for their jobs. But we trained her as well. But, you know, she never really continued with that, so we tried, my coordinator, when tourism season was coming up, I said we have to continue this for them until I can go back down there and show them that this is important, because I have the analytics to back it up and how it helped drive traffic there. We did social media training sessions for business owners and the town person who was supposed to be in charge of the accounts. We took over the accounts while we were a part of the project. We started an Instagram account. We found that was the best thing for outsiders and visitors. We had 590 followers that started the vision of tourism, used some of our Instagram stuff to feature on Go To West Virginia. People loved taking pictures while they were on the trails or doing whatever in Matewan and posting it on Instagram. And we also featured their pictures as well. So Twitter also we found out was good. So that was really successful, and that's a way for them to move forward without spending a lot of money. We also did a Google AdWords campaign. Only spent $300, but we really targeted it. So when people would type in certain keywords that we purchased, taught my students how to do this, four-wheeling, Matewan, Hatfield-McCoy, coal mines. These were just a few of the keywords that we would put in. And we would devote a certain amount of money toward these keywords per click. And so some of the most successful ones by impressions were four-wheeling, coal mines. So anytime someone would search for that, there would be a little Matewan ad with the website on there. So they'd click it, and it would take them to the website, a certain area of the website. Well, you can see when this started. And this represents the traffic that was driven to the new Matewan site as a result. they had, at the end of the campaign, this was just that small window we did that, about 88.6% new sessions, and those were mostly new sessions, new visitors to the site. And you can see there's the peak there, but this is over the lifetime. They didn't really keep up with promoting, but we did a little bit, so that's where we need the longevity in the community, so we can provide more resources there. But they had over 15,000 page views so far for the new site, and that's pretty good. And most of them are new visitors. Some are returning visitors. For impact of Matewan, I'll just talk about it. My contact from the Community Development Hub said that in March, Bill from the Blue Goose Inn said, well, I'm completely booked up. This has never happened before. She said, why do you think that is? He said, I have no idea why. He's like, I started handing out some new brochures, so maybe that's it. She said, you think it has anything to do with what Rita and her students did, or maybe the new website? And he's like, you know what, that could be it. So I'm going to have to go back down there and show them some of this stuff this spring. Also, there was Amy Schuler-Goodwin. She was the tourism commissioner. She's moved on since, but they contracted a study with Longwoods International to show the impact of tourism, because she was trying to get the tourism budget raised for West Virginia, because they don't have a lot of resources either in terms of people and going into these small communities. So they really liked what we were doing and said, here's a role for us here. But it said for every $1 spent, $14 was returned in the community. Well, the people from Matewan echoed that. They said it was the busiest tourism season they'd had. They loved the new website. I'm running short on time here, so I will briefly talk about Grafton. Completely different community. About 5,100 people or so live there, as compared to like 493 in Matewan. I remember numbers really well. It's the birthplace of Mother's Day. It's a home of that beautiful Mother's Day shrine. It has the Grafton National Cemetery. It was once a major hub of the B&O Railroad, but the economy started to decline and people started leaving with the railroad industry. It's also, they're starting to have a thriving arts culture there. There was a mural that was recently painted there. They're in close proximity to Tigert Lake, but that was an untapped opportunity they didn't really use. Now, this wasn't a tourism brand. This was more of an economic development brand to get more businesses there. But they patterned a lot of what this faculty member was new, and she patterned a lot of what we did in Matewan, which is good because we were the foundational project. So they mirrored what we did here. And Grafton was different because they already had an organized group of people who still meet every Thursday for lunch and talk about these things. So it's really cool. So it was a different experience. We wanted to give that one to her because she's a new faculty member, and they did a great job. Here's the Grafton website. They unified all the social media platforms. They did some billboards. There's some branded merchandise, and they did a Snapchat geotag for when people were using that social media platform. But something really cool that they did, as well as Whitesville, there was a journalism professor who had a partnership with Matterport. It's this cool type of camera. And what they did is they took that camera in there, not the students, someone else did it. And it did this whole virtual tour of inside the shrine. And I'll show you, I did a screen video of this. And it's like a dollhouse view where it cuts it, and they have this on their site. Isn't that cool? It's kind of creepy to me, like that, the amount of detail, you know? It can zoom in that much. It goes right up to the pictures. So that's the Mother's Day shrine. It has that beautiful stained glass and all that wood and these pictures. And you can go through, this is the dollhouse view, but then you can go to the floor plan view where you're actually like walking through there. So it's really neat. So they did that. The Whitesville project did that with the Upper Big Branch Mine Disaster Memorial. But I'm going to show you the initial impact. This is a video to end up the presentation, so allow time for some questions. But this video features Keith Gibson from Matewan and also a person from the Grafton campaign. talking about what the impact was for their community, just the initial impact. The Community Branding Initiative is a Benedum-funded project in which faculty-led student teams go into 3 different communities to create research-based integrated community branding plans.
You know, with the almost total loss of our coal industry, the tax base is down, and because we had relied on that so much, we were struggling with getting the word out to people, and, you know, basically didn't have any money or any financial way of doing that.
They are proud, they are committed to this community, they want to see it succeed and thrive. You know, I knew that they needed our help.
We saw the community had a lack of support, which was really unfortunate, but this is also a way that we can step in and help and show them the techniques that they can use to engage the community and just how to overall make the town strong again.
Going into the communities, meeting the people, that was really a turning point.
People there are just amazing. They have such great hospitality. They're always so friendly.
As the community relations director, it's my responsibility to basically be the face of the campaign. And the biggest part of community branding is the community. And if they aren't behind it, then it's not going to work.
When they come to town, they were just like bees. They went to the banks, the churches, anywhere they were people, they were there and you know, gathering their information.
So through our primary research findings and the importance on the history and the outdoor adventure opportunities that there are in Matewan, we basically decided to guide the campaign. We were going to target these niche markets as a way to improve the economy in Matewan and have more visitors want to go visit the town.
Going into the community, I think none of us really knew what to expect. None of us had ever been there before. And just going there and seeing the businesses, seeing the people, it was really special because although there was that disengagement, there was still so much love and so much pride that the residents had for Grafton, and we saw that immediately.
It was great. These students they've amazed me, and they're very professional, very personable, and I'd just like to adopt them all and make them all Grafton residents upon graduation. First of all, I think they've provided us with a great slogan and a great brand identity. I think it's also opened the eyes of some of our residents and business owners that they're making Grafton look like a place where I want to live. And you know, I do want to live there, but it really made it look good.
Even with me expecting good things and stuff, I was still just blown away when I seen the website.
It is going to keep living past our involvement. Past when I graduate, this campaign is still going to be happening. I can leave here knowing that we have provided a community in West Virginia with the tools it needs to succeed.
You know, 5, 10 years down the road, I think we're going to look back on this campaign and this initiative, and we're going to see it as being a turning point in the history of our community. And I really do believe that.